right, and welcome back. Here is the video review for Iron Factory's Final Battle Armor City Commander, or City Commander Final Battle Armor. It is their version of Minimus Ambus from More Than Meets the Eye in the Dying of the Light arc there near the end of the series before it became Lost Light. It is now we never saw this alt mode in the comics, because that's one of the minor complaints that I have about the More Than Meets the Eye Lost Light series, is that you never really see anybody transform. It's not never. You do see some transformations in it, but you don't see a lot. This is a form that, honestly, I don't think was ever really, I don't even know if it was intended to transform. Some of the designs that we have seen, Alex did some really nice alt mode designs for some of these characters that, like, for whatever reason, we just never saw. I don't know that one was ever actually involved with this, or if it is, I haven't seen it. But not a bad approximation of what a bulked up Ultra Magnus would look like here in this alt mode. He's got a lot of guns. And just real quick, here he is with their previous City Commander. This is the first one. They did a re-release of this with some paler blue and red thighs. It looked a little bit more like the comic coloring. But you can see much more massive. I mean, this is one of the biggest single figures Iron Factory has done. I think he may even be bigger than the two big DJD guys they did. But there you can see the, yeah, just massive, very hefty for an Iron Factory toy. But a lot of fun, but also, again, very hefty. Now he does roll fairly well. He's a little draggy right now. I may have gotten a little wheel out of alignment. Some of these do rotate on their pivots. There we go. But yeah, he rolls. He's got little feet. Now I don't know what I'm saying. But he rolls okay. He's got little wheels that allow him to move. And you see he's big armored. He's got these big cannons on the side that you can kind of angle out if you want to fire at other people. There's the interior there, peg on for the shoulder. He actually does have these little flip out targeting things. And if you had a small enough figure, you might be able to have somebody, this kind of looks like a seat, maybe sit there. I don't know if the little ambus that comes with him will fit. But there are some little targeting reticules on both of these cannons, although getting them out with your fingernail can be a little bit problematic. But you saw this one. It's the same thing. I don't want to, I guess the spudge is right here. I could just go for it. Here we go. Let's do it. Come on. Like it doesn't want to, it just doesn't want to come out. It will come out. I've gotten it. And there is a square edge here that if you're able to catch on, you can get it open. But this, oh, there we go. There we go. I did it. Look, I did it. But you can have a little transparent blue targeting reticules there. And they're pegged on. He's got the big cannon on top. Big armored truck. Can shoot some dudes. You can also, if you wish, pop these off. Pop that off, go ahead, fold that down, and fold that up and around like that. That'll be its robot mode configuration. But you can pull all the big weapons off here. You can even unpeg here is where the gun is pegged in. There's a couple little pegs here that peg into the knee parts. You can pull this down and have him be more of a traditional just car carrier Ultra Magnus, and you can see the little Minimus Ambus that comes with him does fit. He's facing backwards, but he does like kind of hide there in the car carrying port with his little chain gun here in vehicle mode. So there's a more standard Ultra Magnus. And like I said, you can pop this open. That's part of how you start transformations. You can lift those up, but you can also, if you want, pop out this little Minimus. This gun came off, but and there is just the raw, unfiltered, unburdened City Commander. You might be able to fit one of the other small cars in there, but don't go too crazy. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room in there. And then the small Minimus has a vehicle mode here. And he's not 100% in his vehicle mode here. So you can put the chain gun on, and then it tabs in there, tabs in up here, and plugs in here. And then the feet are supposed to flip up for the official vehicle mode. And you can, they're on a ball joint and a swivel hinge, so you can get those all the way up there. And there's his little vehicle mode. He doesn't hover like he does in the comics. You can see there's his face. But he's a small little dude. And I was going to try to compare him with Rung, but I can't find my Rung. I don't know where he went. I've got one coming. I got a replacement coming, but like he was here. My other Ultra Magnus was holding him, my Siege Ultra Magnus, and I found my Siege Ultra Magnus, but I did not find my Rung, and I don't know why I could not find my Rung. But anyway, but there he is with the Minimus Ambus that came with the, was it Titan's Return or Power of the Primes? The more recent Ultra Magnus from a few years ago, from that trilogy. There he is with his little vehicle mode. And I still like him too. You can see it's kind of the same thing. Flip them over and look. Oh, look, there's their torsos. Anyway, just to give you an idea of how big he is. And you can also, you don't have to give him this chain gun, but it's fun. You can also take this off and just have him as a little regular car. He rolls around too. And we'll go ahead and start off with transforming Minimus here because he's easy. Just bring his feet down and then unpeg his arms apart here. Rotate these little wheels around to the back just for the time being. And then you can fold his arms all the way forward like that. Bring the knees, they're on a little double hinge there, inside there. So extend the knees all the way and rotate them around to the waist. And then rotate his arms at the elbow, and then this backpack comes down on a double hinge and sits there on his back. And you can either kind of fold these down or you can fold these up over his shoulder, depending on where you want to have them. Personally, I think over the shoulder looks a little too indicative of his alt mode, I guess. He was a very basic robot in the comics, so I just fold him down. But there is Minimus Ambus, and he's pretty poseable. He's got a little ball jointed neck there on his head. He actually has little red painted eyes in there, although it looks, okay, there's a clear piece there. That makes it a lot easier. Oh, he's actually got light piping. It's hard to see because his eyes are so tiny. He's got light piping on Minimus. Ball joint head, dual hinge there at the shoulder. I can't tell if it's a ball joint. It may be a ball joint going into the body, but then a swivel hinge out. Ball joint elbow. He's got apparently a ball joint there at the waist as well, but mostly there for the waist swivel. Ball joint hips, has a thigh swivel, those dual hinge knees, and then his feet are on a hinge right at where it meets the leg, and then a ball joint in the foot. So you've even got some ankle tilt and stuff on him. He's a very nice little Minimus, and I'm super happy to have him. Like, am I more excited for him than the whole thing? I don't know, but it's nice to have a little transforming posable Minimus. More so than this guy, because this guy just, you flip his legs down, and he's actually fairly posable. He's got the hips, the ball joint hips and such, and the ball joint elbows, or shoulders. And the same kind of dual hinge system to bring his backpack down. He's actually a pretty fun little Minimus, all in all. But there they are, together. Come on, stand. Oh, it's because your feet are. There we go. So just so you want to see what those two look like together. There you go. That's a better shot. And you can give him, he can carry his chain gun. He doesn't hold it in his hands. You can see his hands are just a solid closed, like the whole forearm's a solid piece and the hands are painted green. But there's a peg here that lets you peg it in to the underside of his forearm like this. And then you can kind of, you can't quite get it over the, can't plug it into the hole, it's a little too big, but you can kind of get his forearm or his fist over that other little tab peg there. So he can look like he's holding his chain gun, being all cool. I think he used that at the end of the first big arc against Tyrest, but anyway. We'll set him off to the side for right now and focus on the big body himself. When you transform him, you saw part of it. You want to kind of pull back on here and untab these panels and go ahead and fold them up onto here. And then these panels on the side, untab right here at this black tab, and you bring them down on this double hinge, go all the way down and around like that, and then you can fold that hinge in to clip it onto the side piece there, and same over here. Untab it, bring it down and around, and clip it on. And then these panels fold up onto the side of the legs, and tab on right up there. There's a little tab right here at the top. You can go ahead and flip the feet up and the toes out. We'll put those back down in a minute. And then you want to take this panel right here. This is his waist crotch part. So flip that up, flip this middle blue piece up and flip these pieces around, and then it folds up and tabs back on right there. Then open these white panels up here and fold the legs up. Make sure they come all the way up and snap into place. Well, I guess they don't really snap, but peg into place up here. And then you can close these around. And there's even a tab here on the back of each of these knee pieces that this tabs onto. There's a slot right there. So lock that into place. That's not what we need yet. And then split the legs apart. And then angle the feet down like this. And once you've done that, the wheel piece here, you see there's a tab sticking out. You always want to make sure when going back, it always comes down to the bottom. It won't fit over the top here, but rotate that around. And then fold that back up. So now the wheels are kind of stored inside the leg and he's not rolling around on his feet, which is nice. And then you can put the toes however you want. Same over here. Lift it up, angle the foot down so you've got some room to rotate that. And then put it right back up into place. Come on. There we go. And do what you want with the toes. Then on the upper body, come up here, and we're going to open this whole assembly right here. The arms come out. There's a pivot here, and then there's a hinge on the arm here that's going to fold around. This tab's going to go right into here. So fold that around, and then snap that tab into place here. And then before we do anything else, these wheels on the abdomen here also are on rotational pieces. It's easier to do this now. You can see there's the red and blue there. So just rotate, and these will rotate either direction. So rotate it so the wheel comes back inside the body. And push up, and then rotate it so that panel comes back around to the front here. And then just make sure it's straight, kind of line it up, the top of the blue with the top of the middle piece here. So I've got that. Rotate the arms up here, and then all the way down like that. So they're kind of upside down, and then rotate them at the shoulder like that. We can go ahead, you can see this waist piece. Here's his torso, here's his waist. Go ahead and rotate him around at the waist like that. You can start to see them coming together. And then this up here, split the cab. This is the only scary part. These click into place, these little sliding mechanisms. And they're on it feels kind of a thin post. Like you want to make sure when you pull these apart, you're putting pressure down at the bottom and not trying to squeeze it together from the top, because especially when it's open wide and these are just kind of loose panels, you don't want to risk twisting it and twisting something off in there. But kind of just pull it apart. You'll feel it click. And then, so you see it's not all the way to the slider. You want to kind of make sure your finger's down here and click it into place like that. That's the only scary part, is clipping that into place in either direction. Because you want to make sure you're not, like I said, you don't want to be pulling it from up here. You want to be pulling it from down here. Open that up and pull the head assembly out. And then these little grill pieces angle in like this. Make sure they're angled all the way in against the body. And then you bring this whole assembly here. You got to get it past these black panels here. The whole assembly comes off on this hinge, down like that, and rotates around like this. And then you fold these panels out and around the cab. And the cab, you keep it wide, and these tabs on either side of his head have slots on the inside of the cab here. So make sure you get that pegged in like that. And again over here, peg that in like that, and then fold this up on the double hinge. And then this piece right here folds down and tabs into the front of his head, like that. Make sure this whole thing snaps into place. There's a couple tabs here in the white that are going to tab up into this black plastic hinge, and that's when you know you'll have it all locked together. Fold his arms in, fold these panels down on either side of his head, and there is the base Minimus Ambus in robot mode. And he's a pretty cool little Ultra Magnus, just by himself. Like, he's a little beefier than usual, but without all the extra accoutrement, it just looks like a nice, beefy, stylized Magnus. For comparison, here he is with the original City Commander that they did. As you can see, he's much larger, much more articulated, and a much more involved transformation. And again, one of their other larger single figures, I didn't pull the DJD all apart, but here he is with their Scorponok. I like pairing those two together because they were kind of rivals, at least for a while in the IDW comics. And then again, just to compare with the original. So if you want to get fully armor this guy up, first off, so you've got his hands here, which have individually articulated fingers. Be careful with the thumbs. Just like that. This first rotational hinge on mine is fairly tight. A little bit of shock oil or something will loosen that up, but it's not bad. You just got to be careful with which angle you're pulling it up on that end, because it is on a ball joint and it will pop out. If you come like this way and rotate it where you're going against, kind of pushing down at the joint and rotating it, and not pulling it where it's open, it'll tend to move where you want it to without popping out, but it can pop out fairly easily if you're not paying attention, just FYI. So, quick posability. He's got the ball joint at the neck, the rotational at the shoulders, bicep swivel, those dual hinged elbows for the transformation that also work just fine in robot mode. He's got a little bit of wrist swivel there, like a hinge there at the wrist, as well as wrist swivel. Individually, all of his fingers are individually articulated with, thumb has 3 points of articulation. These have 2. Each of the individual fingers has 2. But I think they are on ball joint. They are on ball joints in there, although because of the thickness of the fingers, it doesn't, and the squareness down here, you don't get a whole lot of spread in them, but they are individually articulated. You got a waist swivel. You got an ab crunch. Although, like I said, some of that was untabbing this, but there also is a waist crunch there. It's not super articulate, but it is there. Waist swivel. All these panels here will move out of the way of the hips. We got the dual hinge hips, and they do ratchet front to back. They don't ratchet side to side, but they do ratchet front to back. Dual hinge knees, so a nice range of motion there. And then you got the feet that tilt. The toes are posable, and all in all, very solid. Like I've had him in a lot of crazy poses, and he's actually super solid in all of them. So that's the base Magnus. Now, why go through the bother of upgrading Magnus into Maximus Ambus? Well, here's where it gets fun. Because, one, let's go ahead and attach his weapons. So he's got these 2 big cannons can go here. The 2 big, and the big shoulder cannons. You can have them, like, in the comics they face up, but obviously you can rotate them down. And then he's got this big gun. You flip down the panel and plug it into his fist. Tab it into his fist. There you go. And that's a pretty, even right there, that's a pretty intimidating Magnus. And he's got Minimus down here backing him up with the chain gun. So now, these shoulder pylons can fold forward, and you can see have some cannon detailing in them. These cannons can rotate here, and because of the way the hinge system works, you can kind of angle them out like that as well. So now he's got some more weapons. His fists each have a foldable, you can fold down some brass knuckles on each of his fists, whether he's holding the gun or not. Each forearm, you flip this up, and inside here is a little arm cannon that can fold out. Come on. Like that. So he's got count each one of these as 2 cannons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guns, brass knuckles, and he's ready to take some dudes on. But wait, because you come down here, and each of these little pods on his waist can angle out and open up to reveal some missile launchers. So he's pretty loaded for bear. He's gonna mess up some bad guys, and that's cool. That's really neat. Got some nice transparent blue plastic in both the sight and along the side of the gun, which has some cool light piping effects. But all in all, a pretty nice looking beefy Magnus. Now, on top of that, you can, let's fold some of this stuff up. You can take these pieces off. You can take the gun like this, and you can take Minimus's chain gun, and you can take this, you plug this in to the end of the gun. You can fold this back up, take these pegs here, and put them on like this, and then take the side of the gun and pull it out like that. There's some pegs right here, and now all of the guns and shoulder cannons have combined to form a rocket hammer. And you can put that, again, there's that tab right there on the hand, so you can put his fingers through here. Fold up that gun too. His fingers will fit through there, and you can peg it into the hand securely, and he can hold this really cool rocket hammer. You might want to position the thumb a little differently before you put the hammer in his hand, but again, that's up to you, because you can get his, hold on, if you do this right the first time, you actually can get his thumb around that. Just got to rotate it like that, then plug it in, and you can get just that thumbnail, just the end of his thumb around that hammer. And again, it's a little long, so you got to get him. But you can, if you with those ratcheting joints in the hips, you can actually get him in a pose where he's holding it. I think you might be able to get, he might have enough articulation. Well, I'm not going to try right now. But yeah, you can give him a big, nice big rocket hammer. And at that point, you may be thinking, but now, poor Minimus here is left with no weapon. How will he defend himself? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'll just go ahead and fold all this stuff back up. If you take Minimus, all right, just stand there for a second there, buddy, and turn him back into his vehicle mode. Oh, he's partly back into his vehicle mode. Go ahead and get him all folded up like that. And then instead of rotating his legs around, rotate the foot onto the front here like this, as flat as you can. And then bring the leg out to the side on that ball joint and fold it up at the hinge, the lower hinge, like this. So it kind of looks like that from the front. Oh, his arms came unpegged. There we go. Like that. You can open up this again. Open up these panels. Fold this open. Also, at some point, this might happen to you. This can untab this piece. You don't need to do it for transformation, but if it does come loose, it does just tab back in right here, just FYI. But right here, you'll see with these panels open, you'll see there's two peg holes right here and a tab right here on the blue part. And if you look right here, there's two peg holes right there, and then the tab where the gun pegged in vehicle mode. So you take him and you peg his legs on there, and then make sure that the blue peg pegs into his vehicle mode, because you want to make sure it's all lined up properly. Come on. There you go. Make sure that's all pegged together like that, and then you can fold Minimus into the torso, and then again just tab these right back where they were before. Come on. There we go. And then fold this back up into the body. Actually, it helps if you lift these black panels up before you do that too, but whatever. And so he stays in the torso. Oh, plug that back in there. There we go. So now it's all completely incorporated into just a big, massive robot, which I think is pretty darn cool. I really, like, if you ever watched any of my video reviews, you know how much I love Iron Factory, if you've seen any of my Iron Factory video reviews. This guy has long been a favorite of mine. Just about everything they put out, I'm very happy with. They're doing some really neat stuff at a smaller scale, so it doesn't take up much shelf space. And just, I cannot recommend Iron Factory figures enough. They do cost a little bit more, but I can't think of a single one personally that I haven't found to be worth it for me. They're all just so much fun, and this guy is great. I'm like I said, I'm still playing with him, and this guy's a new favorite. I love the way that everything's incorporated, and I think he's a lot of fun. Also, real quick, we'll get him back to a more standard beefcake configuration here. We'll go ahead and put, see which way that goes. I try to make sure I put them in. You can put them on either way, but I try to make sure that I plug these into his shoulders in a way that they angle up like, oh, and I did it wrong. I like to make sure that they angle up like that in vehicle or in robot mode, but you could do it either way. Fold that back into place, and like I said, these have a little bit of side. These can angle out to the side too for extreme poses to get them out of the way, which is nice. But you do that, and then you just want to give him his big cannon again. You don't want the rocket hammer. You take this, and this actually pegs in. Flip it over. You can see peg hole and then the slot for where it pegs into Minimus. You just plug that in like that, and then his big gun just becomes a slightly bigger gun. So it's still all incorporated, even if you're not using the rocket hammer. So yeah, he's super cool. If you're on the fence, if you've been looking at him and thinking like, I really like that design, but I don't know, totally worth it. I really, really am happy with this guy. So check it out. It is Iron Factory City Commander Final Battle Armor. Just a great all-in-one package. And like I said, even if you don't care for super beefy, if you take off some of the cannons, you take off the shoulder cannons, I think he's a perfectly fine, just cool Magnus. But anyway, there it is. Definitely worth it. I think you're going to be happy if you have them on pre-order, which should be hitting any day now. Iron Factory generally sends me a sample of these right around the time that they come off the production line and start shipping out to... basically, it ships to me directly around the same time they ship them out to stores. So he should be hitting the usual online places very soon. But yeah, absolutely worth it. Just a unit of a dude. Yeah, I keep thinking I'm gonna have some fabulous catchphrase at the end here. I don't. He's cool. If you have any interest in it, get it. I can't. I don't think you'll go wrong. The end. Also, just real quick addendum because I was goofing around right as I finished the video review. If you want to stick the original City Commander's little shoulder missiles on there because you don't care for the big guns, there you go. Look at that. That's pretty decent looking Magnus. All right. Yeah, fine. Just bonus. Just in case you're thinking about it. Weren't sure. Get it.